So the first thing we need to do when creating your alien is to make a selection of your person. This is going to help us to warp them easily. So you can use any tool that you wish. I'm going to use the quick selection tool. I'm going to press Command J to put it on its own layer. I'm just going to title this Original. I'm going to make one more duplicate and title it Liquify. So the next thing that we're going to do is you're going to make a couple decisions. Do you at this point want to erase your person's nose or their eyebrows or any of the other things that you may want to do to them? You could do that now before you move forward. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to liquify. So we're going to go to Filter and Liquify. So we're going to start by bloating the head. We're going to kind of make that cone shape. So I'm going to make my brush roughly the same size as your person's face. I'm going to put the center of the brush in the middle of his forehead. And I'm going to start clicking until I get roughly the shape that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to pick up the pucker tool, and I'm going to make it roughly the same size as his face again. And this time I'm going to pucker or bring in the part of his face where his chin is. That's going to make it into that upside down cone shape. Just put the cursor right in the middle of his chin, and I'm just going to click. You can click and hold it, you can click and drag down a little bit if you want. I'm also going to use the pucker tool you can shrink part of your person's arms if you want to make them look a little more alien-like and gaunt if you wanted to. Totally up to you. I'm even going to take the bloat tool and make his tie a little bigger since I kind of stretched it out and made it a little too thin. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to make the classic almond-shaped eyes. So I'm going to put my brush size using the bloat tool right in the middle of the eye, roughly the same size as the eye. And I'm just going to start to click a bunch of times. At some point you maybe want to make your brush a little bit smaller to make the inside of the eye stretch out a little bit more. Do the same thing with the other side. Again, make it a little bit smaller so I can kind of spread it out a little bit. We could always take the warp tool and adjust the eye shape a little bit. It's mine done exactly the way I want it. Once you're happy, you click OK. Now you notice that you see residual person, or in this case Mr. Lean, in the background. So all we're going to do is we're going to use the clone stamp tool and set it to all layers up here at the top. And I'm just going to clone stamp away a little bit. I'm actually going to clone stamp onto a blank layer. I'm just going to do a little clone stamp and use a fuzzy brush. Remember, you need to alt-click first in order to sample your area. You're just going to paint a little bit at a time. So now from here we can make another duplicate layer if we want to. I may tile this one burn tool, and you can pick up the dodge and burn tool. And to make them look a little bit more darker, if you will, or a little on the scarier side, you can run your brush over areas to make them a little bit darker. All I'm going to do next is I'm going to make him green. So you can do the same thing. You can make it any shade that you want. It doesn't have to be green. It could be blue. It could be purple. So I'm going to use an adjustment layer. And I'm going to clip it to my top layer, and then I'm just going to adjust my hue until I get a hue that I like. Now notice it also turns the shirt purple. So I'm going to use the layer mask and pick up a black brush to erase away any area that I don't want to be green. Like his shirt, could be his teeth. So now we have everything pretty much masked away that we want. We can move on from here. So now we can add our finishing touches. So one thing you could do is make a new blank layer and title it Red Eyes. We can pick up our paintbrush. I'm going to pick a red color and set my blend mode to overlay. I'm just going to paint over his eyes and we'll give it kind of a nice little red glow. It doesn't have to be red, it could be whatever color you would like it to be. And if you think that the eyes are not as dark, you can go back to the burn tool layer and make the eyes a little bit darker by switching to your shadows so that they look a little bit on the darker side. And you could at any time go back and make anything a little bit darker. Maybe we want him to look a little bit on the scarier side, so we burn a little bit more in some areas. Again, totally up to you. The next thing that we can do is we can add some veins. So I'm going to make a blank layer, title it Veins. I'm going to command click on one of my liquefied layers so that I get a selection around my person. And I am going to pick up my brush tool and use one of the brushes that I have downloaded and installed. You can use whatever color you want. I'm going to kind of use a purplish blue color. So now what I'm going to do before I do anything further is I'm going to liquefy it so that it matches the same type of bloat that the head has. And I'm going to turn on show background so I can sort of see what I'm doing. Using the bloat tool, I'm just going to click on it a couple times so that it looks like it is sitting over top of the head instead of flat. OK once I'm happy. See before, after. And then I'm just going to pick up my eraser tool, erase away from the hair and any areas that I think it doesn't really match, or if I painted too much. Over here with the shirt, you want veins on the shirt. Then I'm going to drop my opacity down and just do a little bit of strategic erasing as to where I think some of it should be a little bit not as prominent, such as perhaps down here on his hand. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on my veins layer to make them three-dimensional. I'm going to choose Bevel Emboss in the layer style menu. I'm going to adjust my depth until I see something that I like. It'll be different depending on your computer. I can play with my size a little bit to get something that makes them stand out. Happy with that. And there I have my veins that make kind of look like they're popped out. Now you could adjust your opacity at this point. You could set it to overlay so they really kind of blend in with the green if you want to. Gives you kind of a little bit of texture. And then one more thing that you could do is add a texture. So I'm going to deselect here. And it can be any kind of texture. I'm going to take this salmon image and bring it into my image. And you would want to do this for the face and for the hands, anything that involves skin. Set it over top of his face. I'm going to choose a blend mode, and it will totally depend on your coloring that you have. Multiply can look nice, sometimes overlay looks nice. I think I might go with overlay for this one. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add, well, before I do that, I'm going to liquify it. So I'm going to go to Filter and Liquify, just like we did with the veins. I'm going to use the bloat tool, make them stand out a little bit, and then I'm going to use the pucker tool to pull in some of that texture so it looks like it fits more on the face. I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to add a layer mask down here at the bottom. And I'm going to paint with black. I'm going to erase away all the way around the edge on the hair. Erase away the shirt. Remember, you would want to do this on all skin, not just the face. I'm also going to erase away on the eyes. And the teeth area. It's usually not any texture on teeth. And then all I'm going to do is drop my opacity down again with black. Remember, you could always use white to paint areas back in that you think need to have more. And I'm just going to spend some time erasing areas I think don't need as much texture, like the eyebrow area. Then we could use the opacity on here to drop it down a little bit if you want to. And there we have a cool kind of texture. So that pretty much is your alien. You can do all kinds of things. You can add horns. You could add, you know, into another image, like a space image if you want to. Lots of other things that you can do, which are all on the alien cheat sheet. So you could use those as well. Good luck. Have fun.